Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live broadcast from the Believe studios. Today is a very special episode because this is the second live stream for the month, and this is going to be something that we're going to be trying to do a little bit more regularly. So, if you do like the call-in shows, and if you are a Believe Plus member, you will be getting some juicy bonus content every month by twice as much now. So that's always good. So tonight I do have a guest joining me, and this is going to be something that I'm going to start doing a little bit more when it comes to the live streams, especially on the second one. So tonight I am joined by a very awesome person. I am joined by Sarah, who is the host of the Yowie Central podcast. And if you listen to my podcast and you haven't heard of the Yowie Central podcast, I highly recommend going over there. Sarah does a fantastic job. She's also one of the team members from the AYR crew, the Australian Yowie Research gang, and she does a lot of their witness report interviews because she is just fantastic at it. So go subscribe to her podcast literally right now on any device that you got because she does a great job, and I tune in all the time because she does a way better job than me. Let's be real. Let's get Sarah live here. Sarah, welcome, mate.
Thanks, mate. That is
It
so
is.
not true. You do an amazing job as well. Don't put
No,
yourself down.
no, not at all. It's it's very cool to meet someone else in this field who kind of does the same thing, because as you know, the circle is so small, and to find someone else who's doing it as well, I think it's rare, and I think it's great. And you're a wonderful individual who does a super fantastic job doing the platform.
Thank you. That's very kind. That's very kind of you. It's a labor of love, Yowie Central. It's my passion, what I most love doing. That, and of course the witness interviews for Australian Yowie Research. I can't imagine life without doing it now, if you know what I mean. I have been doing it now for maybe 3 years, and it consumes my every waking moment. So lucky it's something that I really enjoy doing. I think
Yeah.
you're a bit the same, aren't you, mate?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lifestyle.
Yes.
It's all or nothing when it kind of comes to this stuff. So, you really do kind of throw yourself in head first, and you kind of just take everything that comes at you, because everything is just so amazing and just so fantastic, and everyone's encounters is so special and unique.
That they are. That they are. I mean, it's such an honor for people to share their stories that are often really traumatic and personal stories. It is an honor to be the one that they sometimes they haven't told anybody at all. And you probably know this too, that you get people who've been sitting on something for years and years and years, decades even, that they haven't told anyone out of fear of being laughed at, and then they finally get the chance to talk about it, and you're the one they've chosen to tell, and that's pretty special. That's pretty
Yeah,
special.
absolutely. It's almost, it is a little sad in some ways that these people just have never been able to get these stories off their chest. And I feel so lucky, and I'm sure you do too, that we get to be part of that person's life just for that little tiny moment to allow them to share that event that happened to them.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's really special. How many people in the world get to do this for a living? You
Not
get to talk to not many. And it's people like you and like Dean and like me and the people who do this work. I think it's really important work, and to provide a forum for people to share and a safe place for people to share those things. I think it's the importance of this work can't be underestimated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that's just, it's on the record. It's there forever. It's never going to disappear. So it's fantastic that there's people like you and I, and there's so many other people out there that do what we do, that are just collecting their stories and putting them out there for people to let them know they're not alone, which is the whole reason that I do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of I mean, how many subscribers have you got now? You've got a huge audience. There's a lot of people out there now who know that they're not alone. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it all, is it just the communities that get built out of these things, is that is just the unexpected knock-on effect from this, is that, you know, you've got your group, I've got my group, and there'll be a couple of thousand people in between us that have just all kind of bound together for the greater cause. You know, it's like a somehow we've almost created a dickhead-free environment.
Yes, how good is that? I love it. There's very
Yeah.
few dickheads involved, and I very rarely have to get out a big stick and beat people with it, which is really nice. I kind of set those parameters to start with, and I found there was the odd person that I had to kind of trying to explain, well, that's not actually how we, if you've got some feedback and if you don't believe something, that's cool, but zip it. If it's not something nice, you don't need to say it.
Yeah.
I haven't really needed to do that much, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it's great. Sarah, I do have to ask though, how did you get started in all of this? Like what was the thing that hooked you, that got you down the path and then, you know, connected with the AYR crew?
I've always had a fascination for mythological creatures, for fairies, for trolls, for gnomes. I read Enid Blyton books, you know, The Magic Faraway Tree, and I loved the Narnia series and The Dark is Rising, and then later on True Blood, Charlene Harris, and I loved Twilight, of course. All the girls love Twilight. um, so vampires and werewolves, and there was always something that has called me. I've always felt slightly out of place in the real world, and maybe I don't know if it's a calling or just I'm a little bit awkward and I really like being in fantasy land. Maybe that too. I don't know. But having spent many years researching, reading all the accounts on Dean's website, doing a lot of listening to different podcasts in other countries, and you know, Sasquatch Chronicles and things like that. I found myself at a time. I was a social worker and working with victims of crime, victims of violent crime, and I had done some really heavy duty jobs, really difficult stuff, and I found that the culture in that I was in just wasn't very supportive, weirdly enough, because they're social workers, but it was just a toxic environment, and I chose to get out of there and have a break. And luckily I've got a beautiful man who supported me and said, just take a break for a while. But after, I don't know, I think I took 12 months and didn't do much, but needed a mental health break, really. But then after that, I started to think, okay, I need to do something. I'm getting bored. And a friend of mine who works for, who's doing a show, another radio show at Main FM, said, I need a co-host for this Friday, Sarah. Please come on the radio and talk about something, anything. I don't care what it is. Just come on the radio and talk about it. So, Cade, you and I know what that's like too. And suddenly you need to fill shows. You've got content to produce. So I thought, oh, well, I'll go on and talk. The only thing I really know much about is Yowies and Bigfoot. So I went on and talked about that, and she just said, oh, that was so interesting. You need to do a show. You need to do a Bigfoot show. And I thought, well, why not? Didn't know anything about doing radio, didn't know anything about putting a show together or podcasting or anything like that. But I thought, sure, I'll give it a crack. I've got nothing else to do. But then quickly I realized, once I got into the swing of it, quickly I realized that this was actually something that the witnesses of these things really needed a forum, and they needed someone to listen and to be kind and to create a space where they were safe to share that. And so it suddenly became, I realized that it was actually a calling. It was actually a vocation. That's something that I really needed to be doing, that was really, I felt passionate about. And because I felt passionate about it, and because I think it was meant to happen, everything just fell into place. And all of a sudden, I had a show, and I had listeners, and I had people coming up to me, local people in Castlemaine, saying, "Oh my God, I love your show! Thanks, this is awesome!" And all of a sudden, I had a Facebook group, and then I started after the first kind of 48 shows. I started putting them on Spotify and all the other platforms, and it's kind of taken off, which is so exciting. It's so exciting to be doing something that I love doing, and people seem to be really enjoying it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. It's
Yeah.
what a surreal story. Like, you kind of just fell accidentally into the world of radio, got handed a radio show, and you've got one of the biggest Yowie podcasts out there, if not the biggest. It is just if fate ever existed, that is it right there.
Yeah. And somehow I managed to talk Dean Harrison into talking to me and doing an interview with me, because he, at that stage, this was 2.5 years ago, he hated doing radio. He usually said no to podcasts. He did the odd radio show, but he really didn't enjoy it, and he didn't want to do it.
Dean
And
no podcast for a while, did he? I wasn't aware of that.
what was that? Sorry?
I wasn't aware Dean said no to podcasts for years.
I know. Yeah, I think you've had to ask him a few times, haven't you? I actually did.
Only a few thousand, but it worked out.
I said, yeah, I did put in a good word for you, and it's like, yeah, okay, cool. And now he loves you and wants to come on your show all the time. So it's worked out really well. But somehow I talked to him. Yeah. It's cool. He loves coming on your show now. And somehow I talked him into it. And then that, of course, there was someone put in a report who saw a Yowie in Hepburn Springs, which is near me. And I said to Dean, I'm going to go down there and check it out. Do you want me to interview this lady? And I did. I interviewed her on the spot, and it was a terrible recording, and it was a terrible interview just because I had no idea what I was doing. So the sound quality was bad. So she very kindly agreed to come to the Main FM studio and redo it with me. And then I did a good job the second time. So he decided that he would give me another one to do, and then another one, and then he went, you can do them all. Yeah, you're better than me. So why don't you do them all? And everyone wants Sarah now, and they don't want Dean. So,
Not a bad problem to have, I guess.
Yeah. So fortuitously, we became really close friends, and we work really closely together now with AYR. And then Gary Buck was already part of the research team, but then we kind of solidified into this little team, and I couldn't have a better bunch of spunk rats, really, as teammates. They're so lovely.
Yeah, no, that core crew, they're all fantastic guys, and it would be really hard to say anything bad about any single one of them, because the truth is they're all just good blokes.
Yeah, I mean, they all snore, but that's probably all you could say about them, really.
Well, yeah.
I don't even know that, because this is what Dean reports, and then the other guys tell me that Dean snores as well on the odd occasion that he sleeps, which isn't very often.
Yeah, it's to be honest, I don't know how the guys sleep when they're out there, and they're getting action, they're seeing things, and it's just, yes, we just saw some. The night they saw the 2 8-foot tall Yowies, and they're just like, cool, I'm going to go have a sleep now, guys. How?
Yeah, no. No way. I can't imagine being relaxed enough to fall asleep after knowing that and seeing on the screen there were 2 enormous 9-foot tall Yowies just a few meters away.
Yeah.
It would be really difficult for me anyway. It'd be really difficult to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
They keep threatening to when I can eventually get to Queensland to set my hammock up far away, so I'm bait.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. As long as I don't have to listen to you guys snoring all night, fine.
Yeah, I think that that's the alternative. You might take it.
Exactly. So I would love to know how you started doing Believe too, because I haven't spoken to you about this. How did you end up doing the biggest paranormal Yowie UFO show in Australia? How did you end up doing that?
Do you want the honest truth answer?
Yeah.
No one else was doing it. I was listening to so many other podcasts that were out there, like the Confessionals, Sasquatch Chronicles, Monsters Among Us, things like that. Into the Fray, like these were my go to podcasts. It's if you looked at my podcast history, like that's all that was on there. It was just like nothing but like spooky shit, and I thought, geez, Australia is full of this stuff and no one's talking about it. And I started it, and I originally started the show with a like a call in line, thinking, this is the way maybe the show might work for the pilot episode. Because if you listen to season 1, episode 1, and then episode 2, they're like vastly different formats. So essentially, yeah, I started the podcast. No one else was out there doing it, or if they were, I wasn't aware of it. And basically started the call in line. That was an absolute fail of epic proportions. I had to beg and plead with people on the internet to get them to call in and share their stories, because I had no, why would anyone do it? Like the reality is, and hardly anyone did. So I was able to kind of scrape together the I think 3 or 4 calls, enough to kind of put an episode together. And I just took the risk of releasing it out into the world. And I got 17 listens in a month. And I was like, "Ooh, maybe I'm not cut out for this." And I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it another go. I'm going to interview someone one on one, because that way there I can actually talk to the individual, find out a little bit more about their encounter. And the rest is history. It blew up after that. It was just the sky's the limit on it. So yeah, that was really, really helpful. And I did have a couple of other people who like Tony Merkel gave me a shout out on one of his podcasts very, very early on. Tony Merkel was also the first person who ever reviewed the podcast on iTunes, which, that was a massive fangirl moment for me.
Yes.
But
Yes.
yeah, he shared me out to his listeners, and that was, I think that was probably a really good little kickstart. So, maybe a couple of hundred or whatever came over from his show. And yeah, the rest just grew from there. And all the credit has to go to the guests who come on the show, because I'm just some dude who wants to talk to people about their amazing encounters. It's the guests who come on, they're the real superstars. They're the legends of the show, because without them, our shows don't really exist. um and when someone says you do a great show, for me, I always just think that the guests are the ones who do all the hard work. They're the ones who they've got everything to lose, nothing to gain, and they do it. And I'm so grateful. And it it helps a lot of people when they come on the show and share their encounters. It's a really therapeutic experience, I think, for everyone.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I totally second that. I wouldn't have a show if people weren't generous enough to share their experiences with me. Neither of us would have a show, would we? So it's all down to those amazing people who find the courage to speak up and share what you know your average Joe out in the public would laugh at and ridicule and say, "That's ridiculous. You're crazy." So it takes a lot of courage to speak up, and I'm very grateful for people who find that courage to do that. And every time they do that, though, what is really cool, um, other people listening out there who really need someone to talk to about it, and have got it on this weight on their chest for since it happened, go, oh, look, if they've told their story and they've got a safe place to tell it, then I can do that too. I've had quite a few people say that to me, that by
Yeah.
listening to show and listening to somebody else's story, they found the courage to come forward themselves and share it. So it's
100%.
pretty
Yeah,
special.
I would
And I
say
would say, oh, you go on. Sorry.
I would say like 90% of the guests who come on because of previous guests, because they've heard their story and they go, they told theirs, and it compelled me to come on and share my encounter, which is just fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I do have to say though that other podcasters have been amazing. Like, you have been so kind and so lovely, and Brent Thomas and Don Longbeard have also been just lovely to me, and the guys from the Shadows, and I've been so impressed by how kind other people who you think, oh well, maybe I'm competition, so they might not want to help me, but you have, and they have, and I that warms my heart a lot.
Yeah,
That
like that's something I've never really understood. Like, a lot of people don't want to help others, but I kind of figure we're all in this together. We're all here to help people share their stories. It's like, I don't want Sarah to share the story because I want to share the story. It's like, I want Sarah to share the best story that you'll ever hear. So you can go check out Sarah's podcast and subscribe, and make it so she can this could be her full-time job. That's what I want for Sarah. It's not, no,
that's
I
what
need
I
to
want
keep it
to
for
do
myself.
too. No, well, I'm actually working towards that. I've got a graphic designer and a website designer working on a website as we speak, and so that should be ready in the next couple of months. And I haven't actually announced this, so this is an exclusive,
Oh,
Mr. Boyer. I'm actually stepping away from Main FM and doing the community radio to my own podcast. So it's still
wow.
all the it's still Yowie Central. It's still once a week, but I'm not then restricted by time length, and because when it's radio, it's got to be 57 minutes long, the whole show, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because you've got to fit in the promos and whatever. So I've had the most amazing conversations with people, and I was just finding that they would go for an hour and a half, and I'd have to cut out some or chop it into bits and put the second bit the next week. And I find that I'd rather have it all in one go rather than break it into parts. So, so spreading my wings and going out on my own, it's a bit scary, but I thought now is the time, the beginning of a new year, to do that. So my first show of the year will be in the first week of February, but it'll be Yowie Central podcast rather than Main FM radio show. Main FM is still definitely the best little station in the nation. Absolutely. They're a great station. And I'll still be involved with them as volunteer capacity and whatever. But so yeah, it's pretty exciting to get to the point where I think maybe I can actually make a living, and maybe make a living. That'd be really nice. I've been doing it for 2 years completely for free. It's community radio, so it's all volunteer, and AYR is all volunteer. So it'd be really nice to, and all of our equipment is really expensive, and it'd be nice to earn a smidgy bit.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
It'd be really nice.
yes, definitely. And I'm super excited for you to go out and have, that full creative control of, essentially your baby. So
Yeah.
that must be the best feeling in the world. And you must be just so stoked going into 2022 with that just unhinged freedom for
Yes.
any creative idea that you have.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's exciting. And I can't wait to share the website. I've seen little bits and pieces. They haven't finished it yet. But it's going to be really cool. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm excited. If when it gets to that development stage, you'll have to send me a sneak peek link at it, because I'd love to sink my teeth in and check it out, because I'm all for that.
Well, you're a graphic designer, aren't you?
Yeah. I'm one of those dirty marketers that show all the Facebook ads and builds all the websites that follow you around forever and ever.
Well, actually, that would be really cool. I wouldn't mind having another pair of eyes to look over it. So that would actually be awesome, Kate, if you could do that.
Of course, of course. Always,
Yeah.
always I'm helping any way that I can. But look, I do want to let the listeners know, because we do have a fair few people on Facebook and YouTube watching this, that if they do have any questions for Sarah or I, that I can put it up on the screen and we can answer them. So if there's anything that you do want to ask, let us know, and you know, we'll answer them as they kind of come through. So um but talking about, making a living and all of this stuff, I do have to do a little bit of a self disgusting bit of promo here, because over the Christmas holiday
Don't you?
period, I um I did something crazy. I went and started a new business, something that I'm very passionate about, something that basically fuels my life since becoming a parent, because I have two kids under three. And if anyone is in that same boat, they know that sleep is an absolute godsend, essentially. So I went out and started my own coffee company slash brand. So I'm going to pop that up on the screen now for anyone watching. It is called the Cryptid Coffee Company. So if anyone is interested and they want to jump on board and taste some delicious coffee that I've been ingesting for ever, you can do that. So if you go to cryptid.com.au and use the promo code BELIEVE, you'll get 10% off all your orders. And unfortunately, we are sold out of the 250-gram options, but we do have 1 kilo whole beans and ground. So if that is your jam, head on over to cryptid.com.au and use the BELIEVE in the promo code area for 10% off all your purchases. So
How
now,
good? How good is that? Is the graphics, the packaging? I love
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That's awesome.
it's funny. It was a shirt design that I got designed, sketched up for Believe, but I just never used it. So I figured, you know what, I'm gonna do my own coffee, call it the Angry Yowie blend, and put that out into the world. So it's cool. I like it. I there's nothing else out there like it. So who knows?
It's
If people
fantastic.
like coffee, it is always there for them. But yeah.
Love coffee. And tell me about the flavor. Is it a smoky flavor, rich flavor? Where'd the beans come from?
The beans come from a family operated farm over in Papua New Guinea. And the flavor is a chocolatey, fruity taste.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm always
Sounds
down for that. So I
yeah.
I I drink so much coffee. I want it to I want it to taste like a chocolate. So it's not quite like that, but yeah, no, it is quite delicious. So yeah, my house is just full of coffee bags at the moment, and it's just the best smelling house in the world. So
Oh, yes, it would be, it would be,
yeah,
and I can't wait to try it because I'm from Melbourne. We know coffee.
yeah, you
We're very deadly serious about our coffee, and, so I'm, yeah, really looking forward to trying it. It'll be cool.
I'll shoot you a bag. I'll shoot you a
Yeah,
bag after this, because yeah, I'm
that'd be
always
awesome.
keen to share what I can. So
I'll spruik it as much as I can.
indeed, I'll much appreciated. So Sarah, I'm gonna ask you a loaded question here, because I can. I'm the boss. This is my show.
Alright,
What
hit
is
me. Is this
uh
gonna hurt?
no, no, it won't. So actually, you know what? I'm gonna save my question, because we do have some questions from the watchers, the people on Facebook and Instagram. So Amy Cooper has asked, Sarah, have you been out at night with the AYR guys yet?
No, no, and I'm dying to. And every time they go out on the weekend, um, I'm sitting here because I'm down in Victoria and they're all up on the Gold Coast, and I get so jealous every weekend that they go out researching. And we've got a messenger group, so we message backwards and forwards, and they're all doing their preparations for the weekend. And I'm going, oh, I want to be there. And they very kindly they message me while they're out particularly Dean does and tells me what's going on. And but no, sadly, it's on the cards. As soon as we get a little bit more calm and COVID isn't such an issue, and there's traveling is a little bit easier, I will be there. I will be there. But sadly, no, I haven't yet.
Yeah, it's super sad because I was supposed to be there. Is it this weekend or next weekend? I was supposed to be there for a secret project. That's probably all I can say.
Yes,
But
secret
yeah,
project.
but COVID is just a little bit too out of control for travel to happen, and yeah,
I,
basically it's
I
gone wildfire where I live. So
Yeah, I was actually going to be there for that secret project as well.
were you really? Oh,
Yes. Yes, but
next,
unfortunately too hard to organise, or would have had to quarantine for 2 weeks,
yeah,
or, whatever the rules change all the time, and I didn't wanna risk actually getting COVID while I was away,
yeah.
because if there's lots of it around, it's no fun getting sick while you're away. So, it'll have to wait, a little bit more until things have calmed down a bit, but it'll happen. It's
It
definitely
will.
going to happen. Gary has promised he'll use me as bait, so it's definitely going to happen.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried going out there. I feel like those boys would absolutely stitch me up in the biggest way that they can.
Probably.
Probably, probably.
Probably. Knowing them, yes. Yeah.
So,
I have
okay.
threatening to send a life-size cardboard cutout of me up there with them so they can take me out.
Oh,
They'd
not
probably
at
just
all
throw
creepy.
darts
All right, so we do have another question. This one comes in from Gary, and he asks, "I'd like to ask about how violent can Yowies get?" That's a great question because I have a very very uneducated opinion about the Yowie, and I think it is one of the more aggressive species of this type of hominid. I hear about encounters over in the United States, and while those encounters do seem aggressive, I don't know. I just feel like the Yowie seems to be a little bit more aggressive than any of the overseas counterparts because if it doesn't want you there, it actually does everything in its power to get you out of there.
Yeah. Um, so violent, they can be extremely violent um, when it comes to their environment too. I mean, ripping trees out of the ground,
Yeah,
smashing an area up, destroying all the trees and the foliage and the shrubs in the area. They can do that. So it looks like a tornado has gone through. Um, and we know, there are lots of people I've spoken to, and Dean himself has had encounters that could have turned. Well, he was hit by one, so
yep,
that's violent. It didn't kill him though, whereas and it probably could have. So whether the violence is more get out of my territory and don't come back, or I really want to kill you and eat you, I'm not sure if it goes that far. I think it's more a scare tactic more than anything else. That's just mainly because we don't get many stories of people actually being attacked by one.
yeah,
Most of them scared the shit out of them and they ran, but actually being attacked and living to tell the tale. I mean, maybe there are lots of missing people out in our national parks and things like that too. So maybe they have been victims of Yowie violence and never to be seen or heard of again, which is tragic. But I'm not 100% convinced that they're out there to be violent towards us, to kill us and eat us. I think it's a scare tactic to
yeah,
get rid of us.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. But something that you did say there is that Australia does have quite a large missing person population, and it would be surprising to see the data of people who go missing near roadsides, near bushland, and or in bushland, things like that, because I reckon there would be a percentage, maybe a minimal percentage that possibly could be linked to potential Yowie activity.
Yeah. What would be awesome if we had a David Paulides like they have in the United States, who's done a lot of research. I think, is it the Missing 411 project, or the Can-Am project? I think it's Missing 411, but he's done a lot of research into and mapped national parks, who's gone missing, what were the circumstances, kind of eliminated the ones that were clearly not Sasquatch, Bigfoot related, but has still come up with quite a large number of cases where something very strange has happened. It would be really cool if we had someone with those investigation skills and those documenting skills who had the time to look into all the missing people in Australia, generally the people who go missing in national parks, in forested areas, and who could do perhaps a project like David Paulides has been doing in the United States. That would be great. If there's anyone listening who's got those skills and wants to get into that, we would love that.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
How valuable that data would be.
Yeah, it would be amazing. It would be. I don't have time for that, and it's but I think it'd be great if somebody else did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm putting my hand up for someone else.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So we do have another question here from this one's from YouTube. So this is from Creepers Cryptid. He was actually a guest on my show. The New York Times or the New York Post actually picked up this story from my podcast, went mega viral all around the world. Cool. And this episode exploded, which was super fantastic for me and super fantastic for the episode, for just the awareness that these things are in Australia. But he asked, what does Sarah think of Dogman roaming around Australia?
They're out there. We've received, AYR has received several reports of Dogman, a creature that doesn't sound like a Yowie. There's the report from Woy Woy in 2015, where a man reported a creature that had the body of a Yowie, so really tall, really strong, hairy all over, bipedal, running alongside of his car, but it had a muzzle, and it had like ears, pointyish sort of ears. I spoke to another guy last year who, and I think that was the West of Emu Plains one. He was rabbit shooting, and the dog ran into a big thicket of thorn bushes chasing a rabbit. The dog kind of got stuck halfway through and started yelping and carrying on. So they went running to see, and to get the dog. The dog gets pulled into the bush a little bit more, and so the back legs just sticking out. So they're running, trying to pull this dog out, managed to wrestle the dog out, but something was pulling it back in.
Jesus.
And yeah. And then this guy looks into the gap in the leaves and the thorns where the dog was. They finally managed to get the dog out. He looks into the gap, and there's a creature that at first looked like a female Yowie, like a sweet, gentle look, like a curious look on its face. But then he turned around and said to his mate, "Oi, come over here." And then he turned back. As soon as he turned back, the creature had turned into an elongated face, like it looked more like a dog than an ape, which is what it looked like at first. It had this angry look, but the face, he said he couldn't work out what had happened. Like, it just seemed like the face had elongated and the muzzle had elongated. So whether there were two different creatures there, or one had the power to shapeshift into a slightly different form, I don't know what was going on there. But definitely there was another one, Warren Gary in 1995 or something like that described a dogman with ears at the top of its head like a Doberman, like Anubis like the
Oh,
Egyptian
wow.
god. And yeah, and I have actually just interviewed someone from the United States who has a dogman experience, and he described exactly the same thing. That the pointy ears like a Doberman on the top of the head, and a long pointed muzzle. So, so yeah, I think they're out there. What they are, if they're perhaps more, I don't know. It's funny. You go into is it more woo woo than Yowie? But then, because some people don't like you going anywhere other than flesh and blood Yowie. It's a missing, it's a it's a flesh and blood creature, and there's nothing mysterious or woo woo or paranormal or metaphysical about it. I'm not convinced.
Okay.
That,
Okay. That's a question I was going to ask you actually. Like, what
there
is
we go.
your opinion about the Yowie? Because you have the unique ability to talk to more people than the average Joe. You that's basically you'll have knowledge that people wouldn't have. You'll hear things that people wouldn't have heard. What do you think the Yowie is?
It's funny when people ask me this question, I always say, I have no idea. I really don't know. And I'm a bit of a fence sitter. Like, I very rarely go, yes, it's definitely this, because there's so much, we get new details, new information all the time.
Mm.
What I will say though is there are so many unexplained, there's so many unexplained phenomena around seeing a Yowie. Like, some people report them to move soundlessly on a forest floor that's covered in leaf litter and sticks, and how they can seem to appear and disappear with no sound. How they can, I've actually spoken to quite a few people now who talk about seeing a Yowie, but they're looked a bit like the Predator. I think it's that movie, The Predator, when they're sort of invisible. There's just this sort of fuzzy, pixelated, but you can see the outline of the shape. They're there. Something is there, but it's camouflaged. It's cloaked. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of there's quite a few stories of cloaking going on. What exactly that is, I don't know. Whether they're interdimensional creatures from other. I don't know. I don't have all the answers. I wish I did. I wish I really did. I don't think. I know this is really unpopular idea with some people, but I don't think they're just flesh and blood like you and I. I don't think they're 3D creatures like you and I. I think there's something else going on there, that I don't know the actual answer. I don't know what they really are, but it's more than just flesh and blood. It can't be just an undiscovered ape-like creature in Australia.
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same wavelength as you when it comes to that, because I hear so many different encounters when it comes to the Yowie, and you'll find a lot of similarities between them, but there will be ones that are just so different, so unique from everything else. And like that, like you said there, the predator mode thing, that's something that I hear all the time. You hear the stories how they move through the bush and they don't make any noises and things like that. It just creates this like really impossible narrative around this creature, because no two encounters are the same, because you'll hear these super almost superhuman feats being done by these creatures. It's just like, how can you pinpoint what this is? How can you even confirm you're dealing with the same type of creature or entity?
Yeah. And people people talk about mind speak, talk about having words, having a conversation with these beings, but without saying anything, that
Yeah.
report words appearing in their head. And it doesn't happen with every sighting, but it happens often enough for me to go, what's going on there?
Yeah, I actually haven't spoken to anyone on the record who's been willing to share that part of their encounter. But how many people do you think you've spoken to that have said that thing because I hear it fairly regularly in Sasquatch encounters, but Yowie encounters it's like rare as hen's teeth.
It's probably not as common as the United States then, but definitely there's definitely a few. It's not super common, but it happens often enough for me to red flag it and go, well, there's something going on here. Yeah, definitely
Yeah.
something going on. But then, I spoke to a guy the other day who saw a creature that was able to mimic him and exactly mimic his cough. He coughed in the dark. It was on a lookout in the Blue Mountains. It's really dark. He's by himself. I think he was stargazing, and he hears off to the side of him a cough that's exactly the same as his. That was, and then he's back in the same place a little while later and caught. I think he was he's a photographer, so he was taking some shots, and he had the camera going, recording behind him, doing selfies, and he's caught a being that shapeshifted from. It was a face that looked like a Yowie face. Sorry, no, it didn't start off the Yowie. It started off as a lizard, turned into a snake, and then turned into a Yowie face. What that is, he was convinced there was something there, and I had no reason to not believe him. So there's so many mysterious things that go along with just the flesh and blood Yowie sightings that there's something else going on there. Absolutely. Something more mysterious than I think we can grasp at this stage.
Yeah. My personal opinion is I want them to be the most fantastical type of creature that has ever been imagined, because I just know it would infuriate the Bigfoot world, the Yowie research world, to the
Serious researchers who take it very seriously.
Oh, man, don't get me started on researchers and because I've had some interesting run-ins with some of them. So I might just leave it at that.
Well, that's kind of in a way, I'm a fence sitter because I know I don't have all the information. I don't know if we ever will have all the information. So for me to come to any conclusion whatsoever is premature, I think.
Yeah.
I couldn't pretend to be an expert. I don't know everything. So to say categorically they're definitely flesh and blood, or they're definitely this, and they can't be that, I think it's I don't know. I think that's claiming to be convinced by something when you don't actually have all the information, and I don't know if that's good research.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think honestly the best answer I think anyone could give when it comes to this is I'm not educated enough to give a proper answer on that.
Yeah. How the heck would I know?
Yeah. I haven't got one sitting here with me.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't got one. We don't have one in a cage somewhere. Thank God for that. That's the other thing. I really don't ever want to see if it's possible. I'm not convinced that it's actually possible to capture one of these creatures anyway, because of their special gifts and abilities. But I hope that never happens, that someone doesn't go out and shoot one and manage to kill one and put it in a lab so we can dissect it and prove to ourselves that they exist. Who cares? I mean, so we have to kill something to prove to ourselves that something exists. I think that's a fairly bloodthirsty way of going about research, really.
Yeah, it's it's almost like it would be a requirement to prove their existence, to show one kind of just there on the slab, gone, life is expelled from it. So I can definitely see the theory behind that, but yeah, you're right. People don't have to be so bloodthirsty for that point to be proven. I think there's enough evidence out there from witness reports, from video evidence, from audio evidence, from even the Sierra sounds that Ron Moore had recorded.
Yeah.
Things like that are just next level types of evidence, in my opinion. And then the recent capture by the AYR crew with
Yeah.
the thermal. Like how much more evidence do you need? It's I understand the want for a body. I understand the want for hard evidence, but I also really do love the romantic idea that we're never going to catch one of these and never get that evidence. I think that is just, for me, it's like the cruel irony of the whole situation, and I love it.
Well, and I used to, a few years ago, I used to be of that camp that I really wanted to prove. I wanted evidence, and part of the reason why I was researching was to gather evidence so I could prove that they existed. I am convinced that they exist now. I've spoken to hundreds of witnesses now over the last couple of years, and I have no doubt that they're out there. I've come to the understanding in myself that I don't need to prove it to anybody. I don't care if anybody else believes or not. I couldn't give a stuff whether the general public believes they exist or not. To capture one and prove it would really only be about my ego rather
Yeah.
than anything else, that yes, they exist and I'm proving it to you. Why do we care what other people think anyway? That's where I'm at the moment. I've got to that point where I don't really care about proving it to anybody. They're there. And if you want to believe it, great. If you don't want to believe it, fine. Your loss.
Yeah,
But
that's it.
cool.
I'm not losing any sleep out of what anyone else thinks about it. That's for sure.
No.
All
No,
right.
no,
So
no.
we do have time for one more question for tonight because we are almost at the end of our run for tonight.
Ah,
We've got 5 minutes left. So, Sarah,
yeah.
one of your most reported
Time go.
scenes. I know, just what time flies when you're having fun. So,
Yeah.
Amy does have a question for you. She asks, Sarah, one of your mates reported seeing a
I
small being that looked like a stick creature. What is the weirdest cryptid that you have ever been told about? Now, before you go into answering this, where was this stick creature? Was this in like far north Queensland by any chance?
No, it was New South Wales, Hawkesbury River region, if I remember correctly. And Max was the guy who saw the Mimi, it was called, the Mimi, M-I-M-I. That was pretty weird ass. Like that's one of the weirdest cryptids I've heard about. A creature that was about 1 meter tall, the same, where's the camera? I'm using my hands, but the camera can't see it. The same, like a broomstick in width, up and down about 1 meter. It had limbs, arms and legs that were also stick-like. It had a strange mushroomy shaped head and a strange alienish face. And it was and he got the feeling that this thing was, you wouldn't mess with it. It was,
Yeah,
it was tough, and it looked like it came out of a crack in between two big boulders. So
Oh,
maybe,
no. Nope,
yeah,
nope.
yeah, yeah. So that's one of I would have to say that's up there with one of the weirdest things I've heard about. But I did hear about something towards the end of last year. And this was in the Northern Territory, if I'm remembering correctly. It was a 9-foot tall, skinny, long-limbed creature with the head in the shape of a cat. Now the guy who saw it, it was in silhouette, so he didn't actually get a good daytime visual, but he saw the silhouette, and it had a cat-shaped head and ears, but cat-shaped head and long 9-foot tall, skinny, hairless body, black skin, no hair. That was pretty weird too.
That sounds demonic.
But it does. But there was no reason to. You do the same work as I do, and you can fairly quickly pick up if someone's bullshitting and somebody's trying to, make something up just to play a prank on us. And I have no reason to disbelieve these two people. And I spoke to them at length, the guy who saw the creature and the guy who saw this strange, tall, skinny cat-like creature. Catman, maybe we'll call him. I have actually spoken to someone who saw a goat man as well. So legs like a goat, backwards facing knees, little hoofy things, and the upper body head of a man. But there's stories and mythology about weird creatures like that going back millennia. So, and people are still seeing stuff like that now.
That first one that you mentioned reminds me of, and I don't know because, and I really don't want to sound like I'm being super ignorant and arrogant or anything like that about this, but
You couldn't
um,
be.
well, we'll see. But it sounds like it was a Quincan, which was something from Aboriginal folklore, which where I live in the world, it's Cairns, it's very multicultural, and that type of folklore was like very much present in my early education growing up, and that honestly, it just sounds like down to a T that it's a Quincan.
Ah, and I don't actually know that much about. I know that I've heard of the name Quincan, and I had thought that they were maybe like a yowie but taller and skinnier. But this creature didn't have the face of like an ape-like face. It had a cat shaped like a cat, like the
Oh no,
muzzle
I'm
was like.
I'm talking about like that skinny stick
Oh, sorry,
type
the
of
stick. Oh, sorry, yeah, the stick-like
creature.
creature. Right, right. So the Quincan isn't a. It's not a yowie-like creature, right?
Yeah, so if you Google it, you'll see it. It's very heavily documented in um, paintings and rock paintings and things like that. So
Oh, I think
yeah,
I've seen a cave painting with one of those. Is that the famous kind of stick-like creature
yeah,
that
yeah. Like
it's on?
if you Google it and you'll see it, you'll
Yeah,
instantly know it. It's
I know.
yeah, very very famous. So and they
To
from
anyone who's
there,
seen one?
sorry.
Sorry, mate. I said, have you spoken to anyone who's seen one?
Yeah, yeah. One, we didn't talk about it on the podcast. It was kind of like something off the air, but yeah, that's pretty much like word for word. They said, kind of slipped out of an impossible area to get into, and just showed itself.
Yeah, right. I'd be
Yeah,
really interested to hear what the full description of the face and everything was to see if they were a similar kind of creature.
almost down to the T of what you said.
Right. There you
Yeah,
go.
like it
Okay.
was. It's shocking. Like it is shocking. I wonder if it's the same person that we're talking about. Actually, it wouldn't surprise me with like how eerily similar the situation was. But yeah, it's a very very cool type of encounter. So
Yes.
one of the
Yeah.
weirdest I've heard
I'd
too.
like
So yeah, I'm right
that.
on that same boat with you there. But Sarah, we have come to the end of the night already.
That went so quick.
It went so quick. These nights do go incredibly quick because you get kind of hooked on one subject and the night's done. The night's done. But what I will do is I'm going to put your logo up on the screen again, and I want you to tell everybody where they can find you, why they should listen to you. One, I can tell you because your show is way better than mine.
Rubbish. That's such rubbish. You can find Yowie Central on all the major platforms, so Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Stitcher, etc., etc. I do a weekly show. First show of 2022 is coming up in February, first week of February. My usual day for putting out the radio show was Wednesday, but and I might stick to Wednesdays, but we'll see how we go. Definitely first show of the year, though, is coming up in the first week of February. So you can check it out on all those platforms.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, make sure you listen to Believe first, and then go listen to Yowie Central on
Yeah.
Wednesdays. Wednesdays is like the cryptid day, so
Oh, is it?
bookmark.
Okay.
Yep, book that in
Cool.
your in your calendars, everyone. So, yeah, Sarah, it was so great to have you on. The work that you do for your podcast is invaluable. What you do for the guys over at AYR is great. And you're always such a pleasure to talk to because not only do we talk here like this as professionals, we're also mates and we also talk privately all the time.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's so lovely to talk to you on your show. It's an absolute honor to be invited to be invited. And it's always so lovely chatting with you. We can just go, yeah, 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 yeah. It's great.
And we can
Had
we
a
can
lot of
compare war stories all day long.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure. And hello, and my warmest big hugs to everybody out there, all of your listeners.
Yeah, it's great. So go check out Sarah, subscribe to her wherever you get your podcast. Thank you everyone who tuned in tonight. We got quite an audience here tonight, so it's absolutely fantastic. And make sure you head over to the website if you want to subscribe to the Believe podcast, which is the one that I'm the host of. If we've got a whole bunch of listeners who are only here for Sarah, wouldn't surprise me. And and if you do if you do want to support the show, you can become a Believe Plus member for $5 a month, which will get you bonus episodes and early access to all the regular podcast shows. And it's also ad free. So if you're one of those people who complain that I monetize the show, well, too bad. If you want no ads, you can pay for it. So,
Damn straight. Damn straight.
that's it. That's it. Because you know what? This stuff doesn't pay for itself. So
Nope.
it's
And it's very time consuming to produce. So yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So look, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Always a pleasure hanging out with you. And guys, we will catch you on the next live stream. Cheers.